You're watching AndyTube, and this is part 2 of a mini-series for the restoration of a Singer button-style foot pedal or foot controller. And we're going to, this video we're going to do some cleaning. We need to get stuff cleaned up. So I mentioned that these little rubber feet we can clean up, and there's 3 of them. Okay, I must have dropped one off the back. I'll have to track that down. But the way I do it is put 4 of them in a little cup and cover them with alcohol. You can use 91% is what I use, is what I like to do, rubbing alcohol. You can see I buy it at Kroger. And even if you only get the 59 or 60%, that's okay if that's what you have on hand. But just fill that up to the point that they're covered by that alcohol. Okay, and just let them soak in there. Just put that to the side and let them soak. And I'll find the 4th one here. And be sure you put your fiber washers in a good safe place. Oh, here's my other one right here. Okay, so now I've got all 4 of them in there, and I'll just let them soak away in there for a while. And I'm not going to do anything with the carbon stack resistor assembly right now. So I am going to take my cord and get this cellophane tape off of it, and I'll take my little cleaning strainer and I'll put all of my metal screws and springs and stuff in there. Make sure I got all of them. And let me get my little cleaning carry-all, and I'm going to put my strainer full of parts, all the housing parts, and the cord in here. And I'm going to put my bottle with the 50-50 solution of the Krud Kutter cleaning spray in here. And I'm going to go set up. Let me get my. Whoops. That's leaking out. Better close that. I'm going to be using a spray here. I'm going to get my safety glasses in there. I think I got everything. So I'm going to head over to the cleaning station now and get set up there, which is just my kitchen sink. And I'll do a quick show how I clean these. Okay, see you there. Okay, so here at my kitchen sink, what I do is I put the cords with the ends draped over the other side. I don't want to spray cleaner or water directly into these, so I keep those ends over on the dry sink and put the looped ends in the sink. I'll put my covers, bottom cover, and my little basket of all my parts over here on the wet sink. Let me take off my regular glasses and I'll put these on. Okay, get these where they won't be affected. Then it's handy here to have an old soft scrub sponge and an old toothbrush in case you really need to scrub something. And I have a towel over here on the side of the sink, and I have my spray. So let's spray stuff down. 50-50 is a pretty strong solution for this kind of stuff, so I don't have to spray too much on here. Get these. This is just going to kind of mostly degrease and some cleaning. Maybe I'll put the button in here too. It's kind of small. And then I'll give the cover a nice spray with this. And the bottom cover, a nice spray. This is the Krud Kutter all-purpose cleaner. I buy mine at the Home Depot down the road for about $9 a gallon. I bought this spray bottle for $5. So I'll let that chemicals do the work. And I'm going to start with the cord here, and I'm going to hold these ends in the palm of my hand like this to keep them from getting wet, and then I'm going to spray down the rest of the cord. And this really helps get all the accumulated dust and crud and stuff like that off of them. Then I'm going to spray my sponge real good with this. Now, I'm not using any gloves right now, but this will pull your natural oils out of your fingers and hands, so if you're sensitive to that, slip on some gloves, you know, just to protect yourself. So what I do with this is I just start scrubbing that cord down, give it a little help. Okay? The chemical will do most of the work, which is why we use chemicals. But I just like to give it a little help here. Take it up to here. Yeah, I can see my sponge is turning dirty gray now. I will wipe this off and scrub it a little bit. I just don't like to spray it in there. And around this area I will spray my toothbrush a little bit to get it damp and just scrub right in these little spots between to make sure I get that clean. It's already looking pretty nice. Then I'll continue on with the other cord end just to get that nice and clean here. So if you, like I said in the beginning, if you just want to, you know, clean up your, if it's adjusted well and you just want to clean it up, you can clean the cords, you can take the covers off and just, you know, clean all the muck off on the inside and the outside. You don't have to do the full restoration that I do if you don't want. The Krud cover is my go-to cleaner for, I need a little bit more, for, oops, I'm just about out, for cleaning up the cords and the different parts of the sewing machine. Just be careful, it will dull paint if you leave it on there very long. So when I feel like I've got my cords scrubbed up good, then I'll put them over in what I call the dry sink. And then I'll take a look at my covers. I can see brown residue now from these in the bottom of the sink, and I'll just go ahead and give them a little wipe down with the sponge. If I see areas like in here where the rocker arm goes, I might scrub that out a little bit. there's anything that's stubborn, maybe the screw holes. But most of it is just going to let the chemical do its job, and then it's going to, yeah, see all these old marks here are coming off. And then when you rinse, most of that will come off. But I'll go ahead and clean that. Some of you have seen other videos where I have done this type of cleaning on small parts. So, okay, that looks good. What I'm left with now is mostly the metal parts, and usually they don't really need any scrubbing. I guess we could look at these carbon marks and take a swipe at them with our sponge, even though I clean them with the metal polish later. But they're all pretty clean. Let's take a look at this button. Get into this part where the other end of that rocker arm sets in there. That's usually where the dirt and grime accumulate. And let's take a look at that rusty spring. This is not a rust remover. Krud Kutter does make a rust remover, but let's get all the grease and grime and muck off of there first. Now you go ahead and rinse these with just cool water, and then that's why I brought that towel. You want to be sure and get all of the Krud Kutter off, and then dump those out on the towel. We can rinse the cover and the base. Make sure we get all that. And see, that cleaned up real nice. I don't know if you remember all the streaks and the black marks on it, but it cleaned up good, and it smells good. It smells neutral. To rinse the cords, again, I hold all the ends in one hand and just rinse the rest of the cord with my other hand here. Make sure I get all that Krud Kutter off of there. And then with a rinsed sponge, I'll wipe off, and we'll move to the drying station now. Okay? Alright. Luckily we didn't have to move far, huh? So, I do dry things. You can drip dry these, and they will leave a little, mineral spots if you have mineral water, which is we have in the desert. We're at the lower end of the water runoff, right? So we get a lot of high mineral water, but get my strainer basket. I like to get the metal parts. Some of them are a little bit susceptible to rust, like that spring was kind of headed that way, and the screw threads. So I like to get all the metal parts and dry those first. And I found it after draining on the towel, I just use a hair dryer. Right? So I'm not going to take up all your time watching me dry that, but I do the same thing with the covers. Getting the idea there. These will not rust, but here in Phoenix you'll get little mineral deposits, so I like to dry that. And I'll do the same thing with drying the cord. So you get the idea there with that. So I'm going to finish drying these up, then I'm going to take them back to the workbench, and I'm going to inspect the parts that are susceptible to rust. Once you've stripped everything off of them with these chemicals, you can get some flash rust and stuff on some of the certain steel parts. So I'm going to take a look at those and see if I need brush a little oil on them. But I'll meet you back there once I have everything dry. Thanks. Okay, I'm back at the workbench now, and I have all my cleaned and dried parts. Let me get a cloth out here, and I'll just dump out my small metal parts and the button. And I've got my cord. It came out very nice. Doesn't stink anymore. It's got a lot of the grease and grime and everything off of it. Looks pretty good. And my cover plates, the top cover and the bottom plate, came out very nice. These always clean up nice. And time will tell now. I'll give these a little bit of time, and I'll give them the sniff test again to see if I really got that mildew smell out. And if I didn't, I might have to concoct something with a little bleach and test it on a few spots, because I don't want my customer to get a mildewy smelling stinky cord with their machine in the future. So I'll check back on those. What I want to do is inspect these metal parts here for rust. So here's my button for that. Came out real nice. No worries there. And no rust there. I don't see any rust on any of the screws. Very nice. Here's the screws that holds the upper cover to the lower cover plate, and they all look very nice and rust free. These little brass and copper parts never get rust, of course, but I got all the grease and grime of them. I'm going to be polishing that up. Here's the main center screw that holds the contact spring, and it's good. Here's the end cover, a little spotty, but not rusty, and the copper brass here, just a little spotty but not rusty. It's going to clean up nice with the metal polish. I don't know if you can even see. Yeah, I think you could see some of the spots I'm talking about. Even though it's all undercover, I like to clean it up. Here's the little retainer clip, threaded. No rust on it. I think I will put a little oil on that. And here's the tension spring in there that looked a little rusty. It cleaned up, but I am seeing a little bit of flash rust, especially on this end here. They're not rusted together or anything, but I'm seeing a little bit of rust on there. So these two especially, I want to put a little coating of oil on, because I don't want that rust to continue. So I'm just going to take my Tri-Flow Superior lubricant and shake it up. Good, you see how, boy, I've had that a while. It's worn, huh? And I'll put a few drops on the little paintbrush I use for oiling. Get some oil on there. And Let's brush up this spring a little bit. Right? So we don't want that flash rust. Over the years, I've only found one of these broken inside a foot pedal. And the lady told me she was just sewing away and heard a click and everything stopped. So I don't think it was abused. I think just a defect maybe. So there's a little coating of oil on that spring, and on this little stop plate I'll get some little oil on that. I don't want inside those threads to get any rust build up. Okay, and then I guess since I've got oil on the brush anyway, I'll use the extra oil just on the threads of some of the longer screws here. I don't see any flash rust or anything, but when you look at these parts, you see how well made they were, and you think this is 67 years old this year. And I guess in 1950 things were made to last. I mean, these machines were not cheap. This 301 probably cost a couple $100 back then, which would be maybe close to 2,000 or something now. I'm not sure, but at least you got what you paid for, you know? Man. Okay. I don't want to get any oil on any of the contact parts. And one more little screw. So I had enough oil on there just to give them a light coating also. Okay. I'm going to put those back in a mag bowls just so I don't lose anything. And then I want to take a look before this part 2 ends at the rubber feet. Let's see how they're doing here, the rubber feet. Yeah, I see the alcohol is tinged brown like real weak tea now. Let's pull these out and take a look at them. Let's see if I can find one of my toothbrushes real quick. Yeah. So after soaking them for minutes or hours if you want, I go over them with a toothbrush just to get off any of the rubber that has oxidized, and this will usually do it. You can use a soft brass bristle detail brush if you want, but I find that just a stiffer nylon bristle toothbrush will do it. See, I'm dumping it back in the alcohol just to rinse off anything. Now when these dry, they're not going to look as good. They're going to look spotty and gray and stuff, but we can fix that off. I just want to get any of the oxidized rubber off. So just a brushing, 20-30 seconds each, just to get that off. Dump them back in the alcohol, and then dump them back out after you've rinsed them. And you can pat them dry with a towel if you want, or just let them air dry. But you'll see when they start drying, sometimes they look a little funny, a little faded or white. So we'll work on those. In part 3 now, I'm going to be doing the inspecting and polishing and stuff of these other parts, and we're going to tackle this carbon stack resistor. I'm going to show you how, if you want, to take that carbon stack out and inspect the discs and clean out the old carbon powder and so forth. And I'm hoping by then I've got my delivery of the bad one that Michael Lang sent me, and I can kind of show you. Hopefully this will look what they should look like, and his will show you the worst case scenario. So I hope you come back for part 3 of the restoration of a Singer button style foot pedal. Thanks for watching. Take care.